Caricaturist, cartoonist, illustrator John Leech died on the 29th of October 1864. He was perhaps most well known for his work in Punch magazine, although in retrospect his greatest legacy may be in the illustrations he did for Charles Dickens's first edition of A Christmas Carol, creating much of the visual iconography that all subsequent adaptations of that story have drawn upon. John Leech was born in 1817, but as his obituary is here, he died in 1864. That means he was only 47 years old at his death. This is the obituary that the Punch magazine writers wrote for him. The simplest words are best, where all words are in vain. 10 days ago, a great artist in the noon of life, and with his glorious mental faculties in full power, but with the shade of physical infirmity darkening upon him, took his accustomed place among friends who have this day held his pall. Some of them had been fellow workers with him for a quarter of a century, others fewer years, but to know him well was to love him dearly, and all in whose name these lines are written mourn as for a brother. His monument is in the volumes of which this is one sad leaf, and in 100 works which, at this hour, few will not remember more easily than those who have just left his grave. While society, whose every phrase he has illustrated with a truth, a grace, and a tenderness hitherto unknown to satiric art, gladly and proudly takes charge of his fame, they, whose pride in the genius of a great associate was equalled by their affection for an attached friend, would leave on record that they have known no kindlier, more refined or more generous nature than that of him who has been thus early called to his rest. You can tell from the last line, speaking of him being early called to his rest, and also the phrase much earlier in this obituary, that he died in the noon of life, implies that he had much time left. This was not the twilight of his life, it was the middle. It should have been. There should have been many more years to come, many more illustrations to be made. John Leech may be dead. All those who wrote this obituary, dated the 4th of November but published November 12th, all these men are dead and gone, but their illustrations live on. I think it rather telling that they chose to do a traditional obituary rather than a full-page illustration. He was one of their own, and so they chose, as they say, the simplest words, because sometimes the simplest words are best when all words are in vain.